Now, this is a busy slide, but I'm just going to keep it simple to look at the left, the uninjured versus the injured. As you can see, waist circumferences were 2 centimeters greater in the injured versus the uninjured. Oh, by the way, feel free to interrupt if you've got any questions. Visceral fat area, this is the fat right in your tummy, deep into your tummy, was nearly 10% greater in the injured. Physical activity was lower in the injured. And by that, I mean people achieving the physical activity recommendation of 75 minutes of vigorous exercise a week or 150 minutes or more of moderate exercise a week. Okay, so this wasn't in terms of total amount of exercise, this was achieving recommended amounts of exercise. This mark of inflammation, CRP, was marginally higher in the injured. There was no difference in total cholesterol. The good cholesterol, so you want to have high good cholesterol, the good cholesterol was marginally lower, but statistically significant. I mean, it's minusculely different, but statistically significant. Fats, called triglycerides, were higher, but it's only marginally higher, but reaches statistical significance. The injured had higher heart rates, no difference in blood pressure, absolutely no difference in the gold standard measure of arterial stiffness, which I call pulse wave velocity. But the secondary indicator of arterial stiffness, called augmentation index, was higher. And 11.8% of the uninjured had metabolic syndrome. 18% of the US population of a similar age would have metabolic syndrome. Just so you know, 18% of the average American of this age would have metabolic syndrome. And in the injured group, it was 18%. So it was 50% higher, but no different to the average American. But basically showing there was more metabolic syndrome in the injured and uninjured. Now, if you go by NIS, which is your injury severity score at the time you got injured, this data in the injured group was driven by the more severely injured group. Okay, so for example, metabolic syndrome in those with the less severe injuries was 15.2%, but it was 20.7% in the more severely injured. Augmentation index highest in the people with the most severe injured. The fats here, much higher in the people who are more severely injured. And there's a similar story across the board. HSCRP was almost identical, this is inflammatory marker, if you had minor injuries to the uninjured. It was the more severe injured where these numbers became more dramatic. And all I want to say with this busy slide, and I apologize for this slide, it's a bit laziness on my part. All I wanted to say on this is what was driving the diagnosis of metabolic syndrome was waist circumference, lower good cholesterol, and higher fats. There was no difference in sugars or blood pressure between the injured and non-injured. That's why these p-values are not significant. Okay, so I said you needed 3 out of 5 criteria to define metabolic syndrome, and these were the 3 criteria driving it. But no hint of diabetes or early features of diabetes, no difference in blood pressure.